hubby, I'm good. Like when I told my wife in the beginning, like, you're not going to eat today? No, I'm good. Look at me. I got 40 pounds of visceral fat around my midsection.
Right.
I got plenty of stuff, right? Winter isn't coming. I'm good. So I want to land the plane on the first one first, Tommy. The difference of why fasting is different because it protects your resting metabolic rate. It increases your noradrenaline, and it keeps that time under the curve where insulin is high and low.
Yeah, we are really doing something different. Like you said, even if you take in the same number of calories, but it's in that time-restricted manner, and you get the huge benefit of keeping the insulin levels low and getting less time underneath that curve. And that's where the reversal process, the healing process takes place, right? Like, that's when I get to start undoing all of those times when I had those meals that had a few extra calories each time I did it, and they were a little bit more processed carbohydrates. It was a little bit more, I saw the scale just ticking up slowly over time. Well, something was happening to do that. Like, my body was, overall, I was spending more time in fat storage mode. So if I want to undo that and basically act like I have a time machine and I can go back in time, then this is how we do it. We control the insulin now by making these choices.
And that is huge in terms of the reversal process. So especially so if we're looking at the insulin model of obesity versus the calorie in, calorie out model, that's like, we're talking about the resistance portion, right? The 20 pounds that you just can't lose, or the same 20 you've been losing. Well, now it used to be 20, now it's 30, now it's 40, etc.
Yep, that was me.
So yeah, same here. So you are tapping into the reversal, which I love, is that you're getting your numbers to a point. We just had an example pop up in one of our groups where a woman was like, I did it. I've never seen my numbers in the 70s before. And she was having pre-diabetic numbers, and she got there by being consistent and sticking with allowing hormones of insulin and the hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, and all that stuff help to balance out over time and remove that time under the curve where your body wasn't fat stored. So
you know what the best part of that was when she shared that with us was the fact that she wasn't at her lowest overall weight.
Yes.
But her blood sugar, insulin, and ketone numbers were at a much better point than the last time. Yes, they were at a healthier point than the last time that she had been at a lower weight than that. And that part blew my mind. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible when she shared that. I had just forgotten about that. Great point. That leads into the second question, the second part of this question. Do we need to consume an X amount of calories to keep our metabolism going? So fasting has that incredible ability to, some of the research has showed that it actually will boost your metabolism by 14%. Within the 72 to 84 hour mark, right? So we don't recommend a lot of 72-hour fast back to back, right? We want this to be a lifestyle. So we're talking about 18 all the way up to 48s, sometimes 50s, depending on if you're trying to break through a plateau, and then making sure that we're filling our eating window with nutrient-dense, healthy foods, giving our body the opportunity to balance over time, right? So to keep it really simple, if you are worried about it, you can simply track the calories and shoot for that 40 to 60% mark of what your BMR is on a daily basis, and that will be more than enough to make sure that you are getting that protective mechanism by noradrenaline going up and giving your resting metabolic rate the stimulation it needs to continue, and that varying of the windows allows your body also to balance. So 40 to 60%, if you want to track to make yourself feel better about it and make sure that you're on track. And if you're ever feeling like tired or just the cravings have kicked up, increase your protein and your fat intake for a few days, increase your window a little bit, and that should really help you kind of push through.
Yeah, if you're feeling like that and you took a couple of days just to like you said, like open up your window and just switch back to 16.8 or to 18.6 for a couple of days, and then jump back in, like no issue with doing that at all. And I think that 40 to 60%, what you just described there, what I heard was basically almost treating it like you were at a 2 meal a day, like long term. If you were doing 2 meals a day, like I just nixed breakfast. Like breakfast doesn't exist. Like if my kids ask me what's breakfast, I tell them, well, breakfast is the opportunity for kids to eat, for growing kids to eat.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not growing. I don't need it. I don't need a third main eating opportunity for the day. So if you thought about it like you were going to break your day up into 2 main meals, then just eating that like you would at your maintenance point will help you kind of like develop the good habits that are going to sustain you long term, as well as kind of optimizing during your eating window.
Yeah, it was really cool that we picked, well, I love that we picked this group of questions because there's so much overlap. Because we just talked about, you know, the fear of the, well, I never know if I'm going to break my fast, or am I going to be able to stop once I open my eating window? Well, you know, we've given you tips on that too, but like, there's that part of beginning with the end in mind. What does the end look like? When you lose the weight, what does that look like? People don't tend to think about that, or if they're so far from it, it's overwhelming and then they don't start. So yes. I love that there's overlap in here for a lot of these questions that have come in, and they're grouped together, you know, intentionally as well. The last part of this question, this three-parter, the question about, am I making sure that I'm keeping my metabolism going and not entering air quotes starvation mode? The last question, you know, was inspired. That question was inspired by the husband's concern or the spouse's concern, because it goes both ways in this situation. It is a woman who asks the question: am I eating? He doesn't think I'm eating. Well, and he's worried, and that's completely justifiable. So, my perspective on this would be, okay, have you been getting results? If you've been getting results, focusing on your end goal and communicating that, saying, I want to lose this 20 pounds because I want to be healthier for my grandkids. I want to be able to spend more time with you and feel better and sleep better. And if you're getting results, simply sharing that you have confidence that this is a long-term sustainable plan for you should be enough to what we call kind of get that marriage merge to come in. And it's tough when that person is not doing what you're doing, and they're not doing it, and maybe they are, but they're not doing it for the same reasons.
Right.
So just being encouraging that if you do what we just talked about, then you are okay, and just relaying that information.
Yeah. For my own household, when I got started, my wife was concerned for sure. She was like, well, that sounds extreme. It sounds like it might be dangerous. Are you sure? Like, no, I don't even think she asked me if I was sure whenever I first started. It was more like, why would you do that? That doesn't sound good. And it was like, well, okay, I've been trying all these other things for so long. Let's do this. I just want a little bit of support. Don't be too concerned. If I don't feel well, then I'll eat something. Okay. But I've been eating a lot of things for a long time. So let me do something a little bit different and see how this goes. And so then just over the first few days of like, okay, well, let me just check in with you. Let me tell you how I'm feeling and how I was feeling last week. So I'm kind of contrasting now within the beginning of this fasting thing, how I'm feeling versus whenever I was doing things the old way. And then it didn't take long to go like, well, obviously you're making some choices that your body seems to be responding to better. You feel better. And then that starts to give some reassurance to your spouse. And it didn't take long before she said, okay, well, maybe I should do a little bit of this too, and kind of start dipping your toes in the water. And then you have a really cool process of like support, encouragement, feedback, like built into, you know, your marriage or your home life. It's a really cool thing to start to get that marriage merge. Yeah, it is. And I mean, man, you guys, from when we first met, you look a little different. Yeah, right. Yeah. The key word is little. So, thank you, yeah. And that's pot calling the kettle. I'm there. Sure. So yeah. Last question as we wrap up today's Q&A came in, and I love this because this is a question we get often. And for you more emotional folk out there that don't really like data or tracking or numbers, you may not like this portion, but there is some power in potentially needing this tool at some point. So we had talked about this, and then a follow-up question would be, well, if I'm getting results, do I need to use this, or like a Keto Mojo or a blood sugar ketone tracker? And the answer is no, you don't. You absolutely don't have to. So the question is, when in the fasting process should I use the Keto Mojo? I'm not familiar with measuring ketones, blood sugar, etc. So, okay, if you have a desire to have more information and learn more, then the Keto Mojo might be right for you. If you're getting results and you don't want to use it or think you don't really need it, and the answer is you're right, you don't. And you can continue doing exactly what you're doing and not having to worry about it. Yeah, we've even seen some people who were on the right track and then, got it just kind of out of curiosity and then started getting some question marks, some uncertainty points, because there's some unpredictability in what your blood sugar is doing, like minute to minute, what your ketones are doing. That each 20-hour fast is not going to look the same on your keto mojo. It's going to depend on your level of insulin resistance, what you ate at your last meal, how hydrated are you, have you exercised today, what time of day is it? The list goes on for the variables. So understanding that if you are going to go down that path, which is a really cool one, but I don't feel like I was ready for a while for like a level of like, what's going on in, within my body, for more data that I could kind of start reconciling and correlating over time with what I was doing. It did get to a point where it was helpful, but I had to be very consistent with it in order to start correlating that for myself. So just being aware that there can be more uncertainty points, and it can be helpful to avoid those and to kind of insulate yourself from them, especially if you're early on in the process.
Two things there, right? Like, I love that is, you have to stay consistent with it. If you're just going to pick it up and just 500 feet, test willy-nilly, it's going to create more confusion. Yeah. So staying consistent, testing every morning is going to give you a good baseline of what your body's doing overnight. Your fasting blood sugar should be in the morning. It'll give you an idea of where you're on the blood sugar disease scale of healthy, prediabetes, diabetes, etc.
Yeah.
And then the time that really was powerful for me, Tommy, and you had brought this up and I had forgotten about it, was that between like 12 to 2 or 1 to 3 time, especially on the days that I was doing some longer fast, that really gave me some insight into what was happening and why I felt the way I did on certain days and better on others and whatnot. So
early afternoon.
Early afternoon.
Right?
Yeah. So staying consistent with those 2 times for a few weeks, if you are testing or if you haven't really found any traction with it, is a good place to start. And then the second thing that I thought of when you were explaining that was, if you are already doing blood sugar testing, then getting a Keto Mojo that has the ketones portion of it or the GKI portion of it could be a reasonable, like, I don't want to say upgrade, but a reasonable level up. Because you're already used to doing the blood sugar testing, but now you're just going to get blood sugar plus ketones. Then there's an equation that spits out a really cool metric that gives you some insight into what your body's doing physiologically in terms of disease reversal and energy production. Yeah. So again, if you're listening to this going wah 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 wah, right, like the Muppets or the Peanuts, right? Charlie Brown, right? Like, don't worry about it. You don't need to. Just keep doing what you're doing. But knowing that if you do get stuck or you do want some more data, you are more analytical for all the engineers out there. You can absolutely, use this as a tool.
Yeah, let me say one thing emphatically, which is that
this is going to be good.
You don't need sky-high ketones in order to be in fat-burning mode, okay? So if you are going to start measuring this stuff, you don't need to just yearn for the next level of ketones to feel like you're in, a solid state of ketosis and to feel like what you're doing is working. So Keto Mojo has a lot of cool infographics and explainer videos and tutorials and things like that. And so, just starting to tap into the process of just the very beginning entry level nutritional ketosis, especially if you have a high level of insulin resistance or you have a lot of weight to lose, you're on the right track, and that's how it's going to start. And usually those keto numbers will start to slowly rise over time as the weight comes off and the insulin resistance comes down.
Yep. As you're more easily entering ketosis, those numbers will get higher for sure. Yeah. I don't think I ever saw anything over 2 for, it might have been a year. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've used it consistently. But one last kind of fasting for life, little bonus drop here I wanted to share was going back to the original, as we wrap up today's episode, Tommy, about the closing your eating window or being bonus drop here I wanted to share was going back to the original, as we wrap up today's episode, Tommy, about the closing your eating window or being concerned about it. I really want to give the optimizer, as we say, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, and as a tool to be able to do something actionable if that spoke to you or if that's something you struggle with. So the 5-4-3-2-1 rule is from Mel Robbins, and if you don't know who she is, she's got some incredible videos out there. One of the most, just powerhouse entrepreneur, life coach. I mean, she's just incredible. So she does a 5-4-3-2-1 rule where you're breaking that pattern interrupt. So if you are about to do something where you're like, oh, here we go, this is my old pattern.
Right.
Simply going,
here I am again.
5-4-3-2-1. Give yourself a virtual hug and say it's okay. You've identified the issue. You've pattern interrupt. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Walk away from whatever it was, if it's related to food. Get out of the kitchen, get out of the pantry. Set the timer for 10 minutes, and then ask yourself, do I still want to do X behavior?
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, you're going to go, no, I don't. And it's going to remove that pattern or that pattern interrupt or that cue that causes the habit to kind of to pop up, right? We always try to change the action at the end. What we need to do is start with the pattern interrupt or the cue in the beginning. So take a minute, 5-4-3-2-1, set a timer for 10 minutes, walk away from that environment, right? Give yourself a minute to think, and then ask yourself the question, is this moving me closer or farther away from my goal? And if you decide that you're okay with it and it's moving you farther away from your goal, that's okay in the beginning. Just be easier on yourself and don't be so hard on yourself, because changing lifestyle habits and adapting a fasting lifestyle is simple, but sometimes it's not easy, and it's okay.
Yeah, sometimes you're just one little thing away, like you're one fast away, you're one little trick away from breaking these patterns that aren't serving you, so that you can take it to the next level. It's crazy how those little things add up over time. So I'm going to encourage everyone to take a step back, reflect back. What are you doing well lately, and take stock of that. Give yourself a pat on the back and do more of those things, and just find one or two things where you go, yeah, you know what, that hasn't been serving me so well. I would like to tweak that or change it in some way. Just one or two. Focus on lots of good things that you're doing, and just take one or two of the things that you can tweak and go, yeah, how can I do this a little bit better? Put a plan in for next time, and then just think about doing that a few times, and it's going to come to you a lot more easily in the moment next time it comes up.
You're actually going to take the thinking out of it, which is extremely important when it comes to emotional connections to food and our habits. So, with that, Tommy, I want to encourage everybody, if you're new to the Fasting for Life podcast, thank you for joining us. You can head over to the website, find out more about who we are and what we do. You can download the Fast Start Guide. It's a free Fast Start PDF where you can put 1 meal a day fasting into your day-to-day life. We've got the insulin assessment up there. We've got the challenge coming up on January 12th. We're planning out the end of this year, Tommy, as we wrap up. We've got some big things coming in 2022, and just so thankful for each and every one of you that's been listening. So as we typically say, Tommy, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.